Here's why the Steam Deck can't be stopped. Asus has responded to the ROG Ally performance drops, and this is not good. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to Deck Ready. I hope you had a great holiday weekend. This is my early week news update here on the channel. And before I jump into it, if you enjoyed the videos here on the channel, go ahead and check that subscribe button. And if it's red, maybe give it a click and also click that bell and set your notifications to all. Then you'll never miss an update here on Deck Ready. So the first news story I have for you guys is, of course, that the Steam summer sale is happening now. I gotta say, I really love the art for this summer sale. I love when they use this 8-bit art style. They did this for an autumn sale a couple of years ago, and it's one of my favorite wallpaper engines ever, where Gabe was running a little game shop on the corner and monsters would come out and the time of day would change as the week went on. It was just such a cool art style, and I'm glad they brought that back here for the summer sale. Now, of course, there are a ton of videos out there already telling you what to buy, so I'm not gonna get too deep into that. I'm just gonna tell you the 3 games that I recommend from the sale. First one is Octopath Traveler 2. I've been waiting for this game. I heard it was amazing, but I'm just not the biggest JRPG guy. I did really enjoy the first Octopath, but it didn't really feel like something I wanted to spend full price on. It is now on sale for $44, which I feel like is a great price, and it runs incredibly on the Steam Deck. Hogwarts Legacy is also on sale for $47. That doesn't seem like a huge discount until you remember that this is a full price $70 game now, so it's like the biggest discount this game's gotten so far. It also got a huge performance patch recently and runs really well on the Steam Deck. You can basically do a mix of low and medium settings with FSR, and it'll look amazing and run at a locked 30 FPS. And then my out of left field indie recommendation is Kingdom 80. So I played Kingdom before on my iPhone. It's like a town management game basically, where you're a king on a horse and you've got to stop a horde of invaders. So the way you do that is you collect coins and you use those coins to buy troops and recruit people and build up your defenses and stuff like that. They just put out an 80s version of the game where you're a kid on a bike who's trapped at a summer camp in the first level, and it was so much fun building out that summer camp. I spent like 4 hours doing it in the car yesterday, and I think this game is totally worth the $10 that it's on sale for right now. But I'd also love to hear your recommendations down in the comments below. But the reason I'm really talking about the Steam sale here is because the Steam Deck is on sale, and what we've learned from that is that even though there are plenty of more powerful handheld PCs out there like the ROG Ally and the new Aya device, people are still really excited to pick up the Steam Deck. So I'm going to tell you the sale price, and then I'm going to give you my recommendation. So right now you can get the 64GB Steam Deck for $359. That is 10% off the normal price of the Steam Deck. But the interesting thing about this sale is that the discount goes up the higher edition of the Steam Deck you want. So if you get the 256GB Steam Deck, that is only $450, which $450 is about 15% off. And then the biggest model, the 512GB that also comes with the different case and a few other goodies, that one is 20% off at $519. I kind of have 2 recommendations here. If you're someone who just wants to play a few different games on the Steam Deck, like you're a diehard Skyrim player, you've got a bunch of like older emulated games, you're not going to be using a ton of memory, $519 is a great price for that 512GB model. You should also invest for sure in a 1TB micro SD card, but 1.5 terabytes is nothing to be upset about with the Steam Deck. And another reason I'm kind of recommending that one is because you get those extra goodies, right? Like you get the matte screen, which looks awesome. You get the special case that has a different logo on it. I think you get a screen cleaner as well. So it's not like you're just getting that 512GB Steam Deck. Also, if you're someone who just kind of wants to plug and play, you don't want to worry about upgrading anything inside the device, you're just going to use it as is out of the box, that is the one I would definitely go with, because 512GB, that's enough to have on the actual console itself. But then later on, you can go out and get a 1TB micro SD card and expand your storage quite a bit. And for $500, the difference in performance that you get for spending $700 on the ROG Ally, it's not worth the performance upgrade in my opinion, for reasons we're going to talk about later in the video. But if you're someone like me who likes taking things apart, putting them back together, you like doing hardware mods and upgrades that are not too difficult and are only going to take you an hour or two, I would recommend paying the $359 for the 64GB Steam Deck and then also purchasing a 1TB SSD. Those have fallen in price dramatically now. The 2230 drives used to be a couple $100 for a 1TB drive, but now you can get a 1TB version for around $100, which if you do the math, that's $449 for a 1TB internal drive in your actual Steam Deck. And then you don't got to worry about the slower download speeds or the SD card heating up or accidentally snapping it in half when you take the back off of your Steam Deck. Everything is inside your device. And then again, later on, when there's a discount and prices fall on the actual 1TB micro SD card as well, you can pick one of those up. Like on Black Friday, I would guess that the 1TB cards will drop to around 70 or 80 bucks, and that is a great time to pick it up. Now, I'll tell you, when I made this channel, I wasn't as much of a deck expert as I am now, and I made a video where I increased the SSD size of my Steam Deck, and it it went totally fine. The two things you really have to worry about are removing the battery cable. Just make sure you do that before removing anything in the actual device because you don't want to fry your Steam Deck. And then make sure you take the micro SD card out before you take the back off because that'll snap your micro SD card in half. But if you don't have either of those issues, it's not really a hard process. And I think it's really cool that this thing is getting discounted more and more as time goes on, because last year during the Christmas sale, I want to say they discounted the Steam Deck 10% across the board, but now we're getting this bigger tiered discount depending on which model you want to buy. And that's getting it into more people's hands. And even with these higher powered devices out there that are in relatively decent price points, people are still gravitating towards the Steam Deck because over in the UK at least, this thing sold out the first day of the Steam sale. And if you look at the ROG Ally, that thing is totally available at any time of the day, any day of the week, no matter what Best Buy you want to get it from. And look, we're going to talk about the hardware problems with the ROG Ally in a minute, but I don't think that's the issue in terms of why people are gravitating towards an underpowered device. I think price is a factor for sure. $400 for this thing, even without the discount, is a great price. Even with the 64 gigabyte model, you can just go get like a 512 gigabyte or 1 terabyte SD card and have a totally great plug and play experience with your Steam library out of the box. But they have the brand cachet as well by calling it the Steam Deck, making it look and feel like a console if you got it in your hands. But then if you want to treat it like a desktop PC, that is totally open and available to you as well. I saw a lot of people in my comparison between the ROG Ally and the Steam Deck basically saying that one is a console and one is a PC. I could not disagree with that more, since both are in fact PCs, both have fully fledged desktop modes, and there are very, very few things that you can't do in the desktop mode of the Steam Deck that you can do on the actual ROG Ally. And I would argue that the Steam Deck's desktop mode is quicker and provides better battery life than the ROG Ally because that device doesn't even have a true game mode. It just has an app that sort of runs over everything else. Whereas the Steam Deck, once you throw it in desktop mode, it's a completely different sort of environment than what you have with the game mode. But yeah, the Steam Summer Sale is going strong. You can of course get chat stickers for free every 30 minutes, which is cool. The art looks amazing. There's tons of games on sale. And finally, you can pick up a Steam Deck at a pretty healthy discount. So as far as being a Valve fan goes, this is pretty cool. All right, next up here, let's talk about this ROG Ally situation that kind of unfolded over the weekend. So if you guys aren't caught up on the drama with the ROG Ally yet, there was a BIOS update that moved it from version 317 to 319. And when you upgraded to 319, which was really hard not to do, it dropped performance in a lot of games by around 30%. My example of this is with Diablo 4. So I was playing last week on medium settings, FSR quality at 720p, and I was getting a locked 60 FPS in plugged in mode. But then when I unplugged it, I kept it in the turbo battery mode. I was getting stuttering, I was getting frame drops. It was running at around 50 to 58 FPS, and I was like, what the hell is going on? So I checked my BIOS after I spent this entire night downgrading them, and I saw that my current BIOS version was 319. So once again, I went through the entire process. I downgraded to 317. I did it the way where you don't need a dock because for some reason my Steam Deck dock wasn't working with the ROG Ally for that process. And then when I was on 317, I jumped back into Diablo 4 with no charger, and all of those issues were gone. It was running exactly the same in that turbo mode as it was when it was plugged in. The same 1% lows, there was no stuttering or anything like that. So clearly there is a performance issue with those 319 BIOS. Now the interesting thing is Asus took 3 weeks to respond to this issue, and then when they did, they sort of just blew it off and told everyone there is no performance drop, which if you've used the device and you had it before this 319 BIOS version came out and then you downgraded it, you can just see objectively that that's not the case. They recommended applying the hotfix, which if you don't know how to do that, you have to go into the My Asus app, you have to create an account, and then you have to click the help like headset. It's like a weird little headset logo that's like a headphones with a headset microphone, I don't know. You click on that, you download the AMD hotfix, and it should improve performance a little bit. But the frustrating thing there is that the performance gain you get back from the AMD hotfix is not even close to the performance that was lost by this BIOS upgrade. So to see Asus sit there after 3 weeks of silence and say, yeah, there's no issue, you guys are wrong, and sort of actually gaslight people, that is not good. And personally, I don't understand what the issue is here between the 317 and 319 BIOS. I'm assuming that the 319 BIOS, because of the huge performance drop, do get you slightly better battery life out of the ROG Ally, but the whole point of this device is to let people get more performance than the Steam Deck. You can run it at turbo mode, so most people, I would guess, are going to be playing this thing plugged in at all times anyway. It really doesn't make sense to me for them to undercut the performance of the device so dramatically just to give it a few more minutes of battery life at the end of the day. But unfortunately, that is not even close to where the ROG Ally problems end. So last week, I talked about this issue with SD cards that the Ally was having, where basically basically the driver update that the SD card slot got was making it not mount micro SD cards, and the way people were able to figure out how to get that to work was to just download a new driver from Intel for the micro SD card slot. And that didn't really seem like the biggest issue at the time, but it turns out that was just the beginning in terms of micro SD card issues. So the new one that sort of cropped up over the weekend, I've seen this from a ton of people, and I'm really glad it didn't happen to me because I just spent $100 on a brand new 1TB micro SD card specifically for this device. But anyway, what's happening is because of where the SD card slot is situated, it's basically underneath the exhaust vent for the fan, and because the fan is blowing out hot air, it is blasting the SD card slot with hot air to the point where not only is it sort of frying people's micro SD cards, it is in some cases even melting them. So if you're using the ROG Ally as intended in turbo mode while it's plugged in and you're playing stuff like Cyberpunk 2077, Hogwarts Legacy, these games that are really going to tax the hardware and get that thing heated up, the air that's going to be coming out of it is A, going to be hotter, and B, it's going to be more sustained because the fan's going to need to run a lot longer and at higher RPMs to keep the device cool, and because of that, you have a much higher chance of frying your micro SD card. Now, to give them some credit, Asus did respond to this issue as well, but their response was kind of lame in my opinion because all they said was just create a custom fan curve that's basically blasting the fans at all times, which A, is loud, and B, is going to drain your battery even faster, which sucks, and I don't think that's a great solution. They said they're testing it and they found some issues, but they don't specify what those issues are. So overall, I don't think this is a great scenario for the ROG Ally because when you get this thing, it does have a 500GB SSD in it, but that SSD is massively filled up by Windows. I was able to install like 3 games on the thing before it was absolutely full. So basically everyone who gets it is either A, going to buy a new SSD, which is your best route in my opinion now because your SD card could get fried, or they're going to buy a micro SD card, which again could get fried by playing games in turbo mode that are really taxing your device. Now look, I'm not hiding it. I'm biased here. The channel is called Deck Ready. I love my Steam Deck. I've been making videos about it for over a year now and I'm not stopping anytime soon. But this is an issue that really sucks. I feel bad for a lot of these people who went out and bought this thing day one because they were waiting for a Windows centric device that was going to let them play Game Pass games and all that stuff. And it seems like this could have been the big flagship one that people were really going to get excited about. But ever since it came out, there seems to be a new issue plaguing it every other day. And look, I'm not going to pretend like the Steam Deck didn't have its fair share of issues as well when it came out, but the difference is not only did Valve get these fixes turned around incredibly quickly for that device, they also responded to people on Twitter extremely quickly. There's a whole bunch of people at Valve working on the Steam Deck beyond Lawrence and Pierre who love to respond to fans, who love to give feedback, who even take feedback from people and then directly implement it in Steam Deck updates. And that's something that I feel is sorely missing here with the ROG Ally and the Asus team. It seems like Asus as a whole is making this as a new laptop to go alongside all their other products instead of having a dedicated team of its own to actually focus on this thing in the same way we've seen with the Steam Deck. There are a few games that just legitimately run better on the ROG Ally. Diablo 4 is one of them, but I'm still playing it on my Steam Deck because I don't mind 40 FPS at the exact same settings, and I know the battery is going to last a lot longer than 45 minutes at the settings I'm using on the Steam Deck. And also Octopath Traveler 2. Look, I could play it on that 1080p screen on the Ally, but like I said in my comparison, the Steam Deck's more comfortable in my hands, and at the end of the day, that's the device I love playing on. But I know there's a lot of ROG Ally fans out there. I hope these issues get fixed sooner rather than later for you, and once they're fixed, I'll probably be gaming on mine a lot more. And the last news story I have for you guys today is that now that we are officially in July, we got the list of the top games played on the Steam Deck in June, and it looks like this one's going to be another standard list, but we'll see if there's any outliers in there. So in the #1 spot this month is Street Fighter 6. This is a game that I will definitely pick up, but I am definitely also waiting for it to get to a cheaper price point just because I'm not a big fighting game guy. I do really love Mortal Kombat. I became a fan of that right before the movie came out. I played 9, 10, and 11, and I enjoyed the story a ton, but I didn't really get into the online multiplayer. I also like Injustice, but Street Fighter 6 looks like the one to get into because of the story mode. But anyway, at #2 we have Elden Ring, #3 is Grand Theft Auto 5, #4 is Stardew Valley, then Red Dead Redemption 2, Vampire Survivors, Cyberpunk 2077, Hogwarts Legacy, Skyrim, Brotato, Fallout 4, 2K23, Witcher 3, Binding of Isaac Rebirth, No Man's Sky, Hades, Spider-Man Remastered, Monster Hunter Rise, Persona 5 Royal, and Slay the Spire. So the big shakeup this month, obviously, is of course Street Fighter 6. I didn't really see anything else new on the list. So in my opinion, what that's telling us is that a lot of new Steam Deck users are out there, and there's probably a lot more new Steam Deck users than old Steam Deck users, because these are the games that people look up a list for, right? And I couldn't be happier about it, right? Like, this hardware is obviously obviously doing great. I'd say it probably exceeded Valve's expectations, or at the very least met them. We do know they are going to be working on some new VR hardware sooner rather than later, but I don't see the Steam Deck going anywhere anytime soon, and that's awesome. Anyway, guys, that's all I have for you in this Steam Deck update. Make sure you let me know what you think down in the comments below. And remember to subscribe and set your notifications to all if you haven't already. As always, my name is Jamie Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and shape on.